Haide, Kurakusumrak Sedavidom. Come on, step into the twilight with David. Together we will explore adventures of the heart. This evening we join Anton Chekhov as he observes a country gentleman making an inquiry. It was midday. Voldirev, a tall, thick-set country gentleman with a cropped head and prominent eyes, took off his overcoat, mopped his brow with his silk handkerchief, and somewhat diffidently went into the government office. There they were scratching away. "Where can I make an inquiry here?" he said, addressing a porter who was bringing a tray full of glasses from the furthest recesses of the office. "I have to make an inquiry here and to take a copy of a resolution to the council." "That way, please, to the one sitting near the window," said the porter, indicating with the tray the furthest window. Voldirev coughed and went towards the window. There, at a green table spotted like typhus, was sitting a young man with his hair standing up in 4 tufts on his head, with a long pimply nose and a long faded uniform. He was writing, thrusting his nose into the papers. A fly was walking about near his right nostril, and he was continually stretching out his lower lip and blowing under his nose, which gave his face an extremely careworn expression. "May I make an inquiry about my case here, of you? My name is Voldirev, and by the way, I have to take a copy of the resolution of the council of the 2nd of March. The clerk dipped his pen in the ink and looked to see if he had got too much on it. Having satisfied himself that the pen would not make a blot, he began scribbling away. His lip was thrust out, but it was no longer necessary to blow. The fly had settled on his ear. "Can I make an inquiry here?" Voldirev repeated a moment later. "My name is Voldirev. I am a landowner." "Ivan Alexeyevich!" the clerk shouted into the air as though he had not observed Voldirev. "Will you tell the merchant Yarikov when he comes to sign the copy of the complaint lodged with the police? I've told him 1,000 times. I have come in reference to my lawsuit with the heirs of Princess Gugulin," muttered Voldirev. "The case is well known. I earnestly beg you to attend to me." Still failing to observe Voldirev, the clerk caught the fly on his lip, looked at it attentively, and flung it away. The country gentleman coughed and blew his nose loudly on his checked pocket-handkerchief, but this was no use either. He was still unheard. The silence lasted for 2 minutes. Voldirev took a rouble note from his pocket and laid it on an open book before the clerk. The clerk wrinkled up his forehead, drew the book toward him with an anxious air, and closed it. "A little inquiry. I only want to find out on what grounds the heirs of Princess Gugulin— May I trouble you?" The clerk, absorbed in his own thoughts, got up and, scratching his elbow, went to a cupboard for something. Returning a minute later to his table, he became absorbed in the book again. Another rouble note was lying on it. "I will trouble you for 1 minute only. I only have to make an inquiry." The clerk did not hear. He had begun copying something. Voldirev frowned and looked hopelessly at the whole scribbling brotherhood. "They write," he thought, sighing. "They write. The devil take them entirely." He walked away from the table and stopped in the middle of the room, his hands hanging hopelessly at his sides. The porter, passing again with glasses, probably noticed the helpless expression of his face, for he went up to him and asked him in a low voice, "Well, have you inquired?" "I've inquired, but he wouldn't speak to me." "You give him 3 roubles, whispered the porter. "I've given him 2 already. Give him another." Voldirev went back to the table and laid a green note on the open book. The clerk drew the book towards him again and began turning over the leaves, and all at once, as though by chance, lifted his eyes to Voldirev. His nose began to shine, turned red, and wrinkled up in a grin. "Ah, what do you want?" he asked. "I want to make an inquiry in reference to my case. My name is Voldirev." "With pleasure. The Gugulin case, isn't it? Very good. What is it then exactly?" Voldirev explained his business. The clerk became as lively as though he were whirled round by a hurricane. He He gave the necessary information, arranged for a copy to be made, gave the petitioner a chair, and all in one instant. He even spoke about the weather and asked after the harvest. And when Foldereff went away, he accompanied him down the stairs, smiling affably and respectfully, and looking as though he were ready any minute to fall on his face before the gentleman. Foldereff for some reason felt uncomfortable, and in obedience to some inward impulse he took a rouble out of his pocket and gave it to the clerk, and the latter kept bowing and smiling, and took the rouble like a conjurer, so that it seemed to flash through the air. "Well, what people!" thought the country gentleman as he went out into the street, and he stopped and mopped his brow with his handkerchief.